Lamar Jackson deserved to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2019. Already, you're probably thinking to yourself that I'm a crazy person who has no idea what he's talking about. As great as Lamar was last year, even going as far as winning the MVP unanimously, he wasn't a rookie. How can a player who wasn't a rookie win Rookie of the Year? Well, believe it or not, this actually happened once, where a player, for some reason, received multiple votes for Rookie of the Year, even though they weren't a rookie. This is the story behind that. First, we need a bit of context as to how the voting system for Rookie of the Year worked back in the day. In 1967, with the addition of the New Orleans Saints, the league now had 16 teams. Each market had 3 writers who would receive votes for the year-end awards, meaning that there were 48 votes to go around for the Rookie of the Year. It's also important to know that there was no first, second, or third place voting, like you see in other sports. Each writer had 1 vote. That was it. And for some reason, the award was announced and voted on before the regular season ended. There are many reasons why this makes no sense whatsoever. As an example, Johnny Unitas was announced as the MVP of the league in 1967. At the time of the voting, that made sense, seeing as the Colts were undefeated. But they wound up missing the postseason, and I'm not sure you're going to see a player win the MVP on a non-playoff team under normal circumstances. Roman Gabriel didn't get any votes for MVP that year, but if the voting was done after the regular season like it is now, he might have been the favorite. This notion of the voting coming before the regular season ending is important to note, because it might help explain, to an extent, the situation at hand with the strangest Rookie of the Year voting of all time. Quarterback Jim Hart was a very successful player in the NFL, and is one of the Hall of Very Good quarterbacks. He played 19 seasons in the NFL, making 4 straight Pro Bowls from 1974 to 77, and might be the best quarterback in the over century-long history of the Cardinals. When you think of the St. Louis Cardinals football team, Hart is probably the first name that comes to mind. His first season in the NFL was in 1966, after he signed with the Cardinals as an undrafted free agent. But he didn't play in the first 13 games. His only appearance came in backup duty in the final game of the season, which was a 38-10 loss to the Cleveland Browns. In that game, Hart went 4 for 11 for 29 yards. It was not a good debut, to say the least. But that game came after the voting for Rookie of the Year was done. His teammate, Johnny Rowland, won this award after running for 695 yards and 5 touchdowns. This was announced before Week 14, and Hart didn't play until Week 14. So in the eyes of some voters, that meant that Hart was eligible for Rookie of the Year in 1967, which in some ways makes sense. Baseball has weird eligibility rules, and baseball was still the king in America compared to professional football, though the gap was starting to narrow thanks to the merger and the expansion of television. Plus, Rowland was drafted in 1965 and he didn't play, but he won the Rookie of the Year in 1966. So in that regard, some parts about the NFL voting were a bit wacky as well. And Hart wore the number 7 jersey in 1966, but wore the number 17 jersey in 1967. So some voters might not have even been aware that Hart even played the year before if they only recognized the jersey number. Because of this, 2 voters cast their ballot in 1967 for Jim Hart, even though he played in 1966. Now why they cast their vote for him to begin with, I don't know, since he wasn't that good. He threw 30 interceptions, which at the time was the second most of any quarterback in NFL history, only behind Sid Luckman's 31 picks in 1947. He threw 5 pick sixes, which at the time was the second most of any quarterback in NFL history, only behind Rudy Bukich's 6 pick sixes in 1966. Jameis Winston laughs in the distance. But when the votes were announced, Lions running back Mel Farr won with 34 votes. He finished with 806 rushing yards, which was the 5th most in all of football. Dave Williams, who scored 5 touchdowns as the Cardinals receiver, finished second with 5 votes. Saints receiver Danny Abramowitz, who scored 6 touchdowns and had 50 receptions, finished third with 3 votes. And the only other player to receive multiple votes? A guy who wasn't even eligible. Jim Hart. Naturally, these votes got discarded, since Hart played in 1966 and was not a rookie by any definition whatsoever. Nowadays, it would be almost impossible for anything like this to happen. Since eligibility rules are fairly straightforward, since the nominees are narrowed down beforehand, and since the voting takes place after the season, it would be impossible for a non-rookie to be considered for the Rookie of the Year. But if you want another example of just how weird the game was back in the 1960s, here you go. Because in this case, eligibility was just a number. Special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. See how you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.